Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Monday, December the 25th, 2023. Happy Christmas! And in this video, I will be looking at the astrology and the I Ching for today, December the 25th, 2023. Now, one warning, I haven't prepared my forecasts for the 12 signs, so I'm going to kind of do it sort of on the spur of a moment. Just going to sort of look at the chart, go through the 12 signs. I may not be particularly coherent, so a warning there. And what you really mustn't do is sort of listen to what I say for all of the 12 signs, because that's going to be really boring. You just focus on your sign, and I've got timestamps and chapters, so you know when I go through the 12 signs, just hear your own sign, or perhaps your nearest and dearest sign, or whatever. Then you can skip through and listen to what I have to say about the I Ching. Now, as far as my topics are concerned, I have two topics. My first topic is going to be the full moon, which is on Wednesday the 27th. This full moon, well, every full moon is important. I think this full moon is going to influence us. It's kind of quite a deceptive full moon. It sort of looks okay, but when you really get into the details of it, you know, there could be a few problems there. And so I want to go into that and consider how it might impact the next 2 weeks, approximately between now and the new moon on January the 11th. Now, my other topic is, perhaps a bit more controversial, relates to, the war in Ukraine. Now, if you've been following this war, you will have no doubt realized that both sides, the Ukraine and its NATO sponsors on one hand and Russia on the other hand, don't necessarily tell the truth. Both sides seem to be lying to some extent. And so it's very difficult to work out what is going on. I mean, for example, we recently had this story that Ukraine had just shot down 3 Russian planes, or I think they were bombers in some kind of ambush. Maybe a Patriot missile was involved, and 3 of them were destroyed. I mean, that's what the Ukrainians have said. I've looked at things from the Russian side. People supportive of the Russian side are saying, no, it's not 3, it's only 1, and maybe the crew was actually rescued. I mean, what's going on? I mean, do we know what's going on? It's really difficult to tell because we've got this propaganda war. So there was something else that happened. So let me just show you this story. Again, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just showing you a story. Let me show you this. Okay, so this is the Twitter X. So someone called Lord Bebo wrote this. He said, he wrote, breaking, Odessa's partisans derailed a train with military assistance from NATO countries. According to underground workers working in Ukrainian railroads, at about 11 p.m. on December the 22nd in the area of the village of Velikodolinsko, I think that means actually Big Valley, Velikodolinsko. Anyway, it's in Odessa region. A train carrying military cargo was blown up. Most of the property has been destroyed. The area of the incident is cordoned off by the military. Rescue operations are underway. It is preliminary known that as a result of the detonation of ammunition, a shipment of aid from Germany was destroyed. Vector UAV, ammunition for Leopard tanks, 155mm shells, and electronic warfare systems. So there is a claim. I mean, it's quite a big claim, not so much because of the damage, but because of how it was done. It was suggesting that there were partisans, sort of irregular forces on the ground attacking the train. Also, it says that suggests according to underground workers working in Ukrainian railroads. In other words, that there are employees of the Ukrainian railways who helped orchestrate this event. So is this true? Is it not true? I don't know. We don't know about the details, but we are given a date and a time. We're given 11 p.m. on December the 22nd, obviously 2023. So I thought it would be a good idea to set up a chart for this supposed explosion and ask the question, did it happen? Now, if it did happen, we'd at least expect something explosive to be indicated in the horoscope, and that may be a way one can use astrology, perhaps to test claims. Of course, we can only do it to begin with, because if everyone started using astrology to test claims, in the end, if Ukraine, for example, or knew that everyone was using astrology to test their claims, then of course they'd choose dates and times and dates which, for example, had Uranus on the IC or whatever. So there are limits to how we can use this approach. But anyway, I'm going to be looking at that chart for 11 p.m. on December the 22nd in this village, which I think is sort of southwest of Odessa. Okay, so before I do that, before I look at the topics of the Wednesday's full moon and this train explosion, I want to look at the astrology for today, which is Christmas Day, 2023. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. That on top right, that's the full moon on Wednesday. That's a midpoint tree for the full moon, so we needn't worry about that at the moment. So this is the positions of the planets on December the 25th, 2023, New York at noon. So Venus is trine Neptune, and I've talked about this before when I was looking at the week ahead. So Venus trine Neptune is probably quite nice to have on Christmas Day. Provided one doesn't go over the top with it. Neptune, I suppose, is a planet of alcohol. It's a planet of becoming part of a wider whole. It can be quite spiritual. Venus trine Neptune is quite pleasant. I mean, it's not an amazingly powerful aspect, Venus trine Neptune. Actually, I've got Venus trine Neptune in my chart. I've got Venus in Cancer trine Neptune in Scorpio. It's not a particularly powerful aspect, Venus trine Neptune. What is perhaps of more concern is the fact that there's a moon in Gemini. The moon in Gemini is applying to an opposition of Mars and an opposition of Mercury. I know it's Christmas Day, and I'm supposed to say nice things about Christmas Day, but with that moon opposition, the Mercury-Mars conjunction, there could be problems, particularly if you've got a lot of people around you over Christmas. And, Christmas can be a very tense time. People can argue, personality clashes can come out into the open. So we have to be very careful what we say. I mean, all of us have to be careful what we say, because it's so easy to cause an argument. I suppose, particularly if people are drunk or not quite themselves. So that's something we really have to watch for. It's not a day for making bold statements. So not a day for making announcements. You've got to keep it light. I know this Mercury-Mars conjunction is not exact quite yet, but we're beginning to feel it. So yes, Mercury-Mars conjunction, opposition the moon. Communication could be strained. So moon. The moon and Mercury are communication planets. Moon is about emotional communication. Mercury is about more sort of mental communication. You have this opposition between Moon and Mercury. People could argue. So really steer clear of controversial topics over Christmas. So if you have got a problem with someone and you're meeting them on Christmas Day, do you really have to talk about it? I mean, maybe you do. Maybe there's no way around it. Sometimes things, arguments have to be brought out into the open, and you have to be very clear about it. But think about it first. Is this really the right thing to do? It's not just the fact that the moon is opposition Mercury and Mars. Look at Mercury. It's going retrograde. It's going towards a square of Neptune. I think for many of us, our minds are not going to be on great form. We might find ourselves getting the wrong impression, jumping to the wrong conclusions, and this can be reflected in what we say. So yeah, we have to be very careful. And really, that's the main thing over Christmas. I would love to be more positive about Christmas. The sun. There's a sun at 3:38 Capricorn. It's moving to a trine of Jupiter. So over the next couple of days, sun will be making a trine to Jupiter. That is a fortunate aspect. And so maybe we're starting to feel that. There is scope for Sun trine Jupiter growing optimism. So if we are going to communicate, just keep it optimistic. The big picture, things are looking good. Try and imagine that things are getting good, are looking good. Not a time for sort of nitpicking criticisms. Just focus on that, or focus on optimism, generosity, all that kind of Sun Jupiter kind of stuff. And just really avoid criticizing people unless it's really necessary. Now, as far as my forecasts for the 12 signs are concerned, here goes. These are my forecasts for today, which is Monday, December the 25th, 2023. Aries. Aries, you do have to be careful what you say. This is because the moon is moving through the communication sector of your solar chart in Gemini. Yes, you have got lots of things to say, but the moon is applying to an opposition of Mars, and Mars is your ruling planet. So there is plenty of scope for you having arguments, and in particular, Aries, you need to avoid religion and politics. Taurus. Overall, it can be a good day, provided you focus on the big picture. After all, Jupiter is moving through your star sign. It's been moving through your star sign for quite some time. And now it's about to go stationary direct, and Jupiter receives a trine from the Sun. And so if you think about the big picture, if you're optimistic, then things are going to be fine. But what you must not do is concentrate too much energy on money, because if you focus on money, if you talk about money, particularly if you talk about, stuff like family budgets, if you're critical about other people's use of how people spend money, even giving people financial advice, you might think it's the right thing to do to give people financial advice. I don't think financial advice will be taken very well. Yeah, you might cause an argument if you give financial advice. So if you've got financial advice to give, I would save it for later. On the other hand, if someone else gives you financial advice, tells you what to do with your money, I don't think you'll take it well, but that's no excuse to explode. Just accept it, just take it. If someone wants to be helpful, even if you don't appreciate it, then just try to be relaxed. Gemini, Christmas Day should be fine. Your mind is going to be on good form. After all, the moon is going through your star sign. And so you will have plenty of things to say, and you will be an engaging conversationalist. But you have to watch out. From a Gemini perspective, yeah, you've got lots of things to say, and you might take the view, well, it's just words. I mean, whatever, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, or whatever. But yeah, your words could cause damage, because the moon in Gemini is making an opposition to Mars, and that's happening across the main axis of your solar chart, because Gemini, moon in Gemini, opposition Mars in Sagittarius. So that is that is very tense. So, but especially in one-to-one relationships, one-to-one relationships could be tricky. So this is particularly the case, if you've just got to know someone, things are going okay, but you could spoil everything by saying the wrong thing. And even in a long-standing relationship, a word out of place could cause a lot of damage. Cancer, ideally, you will keep a fairly low profile today. You're not really in the mood for a lot of heavy social interaction. I know it's Christmas, and being a Cancerian, a sentimental Cancerian, Christmas is a very important day for you. But really, you want to stick to people who you know and trust. You don't want to have to try too hard to engage with new people. That's what you don't want. You don't want to have new people around. It's not going to help. You will not be relaxed. So try to keep it. Try to keep it simple, and don't overanalyze the situation. The moon is in Gemini. The moon is a ruler of Cancer. So when it's in Gemini, you might be thinking too hard about what's going on. Just don't think too hard. Just enjoy the day, but keep your distance from other people. Particularly if you don't know them very well. That's probably the best approach. Leo, it is in some respects quite a good time for Leos, because your ruling planet is the sun. Okay, I know technically the sun is not a planet, it's a star. But your ruling planet, the sun, is starting to make a trine with Jupiter. Yes, it is Christmas Day. Yes, people are supposed to be sort of relaxing. But part of you is kind of thinking ahead. You're thinking about opportunities that might be coming your way after Christmas. So being able to just, for example, I don't know, sit down and relax with people is just maybe really difficult. I mean, you can do it. I mean, you can be quite effective in a social situation, but you're not going to be fully relaxed today, because you're going to be thinking about the future and thinking about opportunities in the future. Now, it may be that Christmas isn't a big deal for you. Maybe you don't celebrate Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, then in a way it's going to be a really good day, because there's some good stuff you can accomplish, particularly on a sort of financial career sense, preparing yourself for future challenges and opportunities. Virgo, I don't know. You do have to be careful, Virgo. Christmas, particularly if you're celebrating Christmas, and I do understand that some people listening to me might not be celebrating Christmas. Christmas might not be a big deal. So I'm sorry if I'm making this assumption. But Mercury has now slipped into a sector of your solar chart connected with the home and family. And Mars is already there. So your home, your domestic environment, it's a place where there could be there could be quite a lot of arguments. There's plenty of ways in which you can disagree with your family. And matters are made worse by the fact that the moon is in your solar 10th house, and that's a part of the chart that often connected with career, business, whatever. Like Leo, you are going to be thinking. Many of you are going to be thinking about work matters. Even though it's Christmas, it is going to be quite difficult for you to relax, and I think you could find people annoying. So I don't know. Somehow, Virgo, you do have to sort of chill out a bit. That's what I would suggest. Libra. Libra, I would just try to focus today on what the day is all about. Okay, it depends on your religious preferences, but it's supposed to be a spiritual day, isn't it? I mean, even if you're not a Christian, you can kind of appreciate its spirituality. Or if you're I don't know, a pagan, you might be thinking about how this is. Well, it's no longer the shortest day. The shortest day was a few days ago, but you can really get into Earth's, into the natural cycles. We're getting the hours of daylight in the northern hemisphere are now getting longer. Of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, they're getting shorter. So if try to look at it from a sort of a spiritual perspective. Try and see the big picture. Try to look beyond your own individuality, and your beliefs about the world and your spirituality. Focus on them, but probably don't advertise them. Your beliefs today, Christmas Day, should be private. If you start talking about your beliefs, not just spiritual beliefs, but political beliefs, whatever, then that could cause arguments. So I would be a bit careful there. Scorpio. I don't know, Scorpio. I am the moon, and the moon is making this opposition aspect to Mercury and Mars across across the finance axis of your solar chart. I think like Taurus, you could find that money is a bit of an issue for you. You are thinking about money. You're thinking, not just about everyday money, but you're thinking about, financial complications. You know, things like money, the kind of money that other people are involved with, where it's sort of joint financial resources, that kind of stuff. And if you're with your family, it can become more and more increasingly intense. There are things you're concerned about, but at the same time, you don't really want to talk about it. But you might find that you want to talk, you have to talk about it, and it's also about some of your deeper feelings. You're trying to, in some respects, over Christmas, you're trying to verbalize some of your deeper feelings, and that could be hard work, and in the process, there could be problems. Okay, Sagittarius. Mercury and Mars are in your star sign. You do have a lot to say for yourself. Okay, I know Sagittarians often have a lot to say for themselves, but today it seems to be particularly intense. And the question is, are other people going to appreciate it? I think there's a good chance that they might not appreciate it. You might be so keen to talk, but you forget that there is someone else listening. Okay, I know we don't want to talk, and we expect someone to be listening, but we sometimes forget that person who is listening to us has their own unique view of the world, which we can't fully understand or predict, and that means that the things we say could cause a bit of a problem. So watch out for that. So the next sign I want to talk about is Capricorn. So Capricorn. Now Capricorn, if you are celebrating Christmas, there is some danger that you are taken for granted. You might find yourself being the one who does most of the work today. So you have to look after your own interests. Now, you could say, oh, well, you want to be a martyr. But no, it's not going to work like that, because if you find yourself doing too much of a work, you are going to get annoyed. And at some stage, your annoyance might start to manifest, and that's not a good thing. So I think, Capricorn, if you want a good day, you need to start off by being very clear about how you want the day to run, and you need to make sure that other people are doing their fair share of the work. Aquarius, it can be a good day, Aquarius. I know I've been really negative about a lot of the signs, but the moon is moving through a sector of your solar chart which is connected with fun and creativity. So I think you can have an enjoyable day. Do what you want in terms of enjoyment. If you enjoy something and you believe you want to do it, then I'd suggest you just do it. Don't don't negotiate about what you want to do. Just do it in your own private way. If other people want to join in, that's fine. If they don't, then okay. That's the way it is. If you start negotiating about what you want to do, who would like to do this, who would not like to do that, then yeah, then there could be problems. But I would have said just enjoy yourself without apology. And finally, Pisces. I think Pisces, your natural inclination really is going to be, I think you're going to just want to relax in your own home. It's Christmas Day after all. I mean, the moon is in Gemini. The moon is in a sector of your solar chart connected with the home. Gentle conversation, and that should be fine, but gentle conversation. What you don't want to have to do is deal with conflicting issues, worrying about other responsibilities which go beyond Christmas. You know, you're thinking about you've got to do something else, and that you don't want to do that. I would just keep it simple. Focus on one thing at a time, and probably best to just stay at home. Don't feel pressurized to do anything, and it should be an okay day. Okay, so those are my forecasts for 12 signs. As you can see, I went on for rather a long time, and I'm not sure that that was always completely coherent. But now I want to change tack and look at the I Ching for today, which is Christmas Day. So as always, I ask the question, you know, what is Christmas Day going to be like for those watching this video? If you don't celebrate Christmas, you're not interested in Christmas, then okay, I can make it more secular. What is Monday, December the 25th going to be like for those watching this video? The first hexagram I got was biting through. Now, when I looked at the astrology for today, I was somewhat negative, and I apologize for that. But the moon is moving to this opposition of Mercury and Mars, and I think this hexagram 21 biting through, to an extent, reinforces the negativity. In terms of the I Ching, this hexagram biting through is actually about punishment. It's about dealing with people who are behaving badly. So what do we do when people are behaving badly? So, I think that if we are in any sort of social situation over Christmas, people are not going to be behaving right. I think there's a real danger of that. And so the question is, what do we do? Now, we have two moving lines here. The bottom line is moving, and the second line from the bottom is moving. Bottom line moving is about someone behaving badly, but not in a particularly serious way. If someone is behaving badly, they can be gently put right. I mean, we don't have to go completely ballistic when we see someone behaving in a way that we don't approve of. So that's the first point. You see, biting through is about punishment, how one disciplines people. Then the second line moving is actually quite extreme. It's talking about someone who is not behaving right, And it's also saying that our response to someone not behaving right is over the top. We overreact to a provocation. But then the I Ching says, okay, you've overreacted, but fair enough. Don't worry about overreacting. It was the right thing to do. So overall, yeah, I think there is this warning here that we have to be very careful today. But we need to steer clear of situations where we are sort of forced to think about disciplining people, punishment, this kind of thing. This is not the kind of thing we want to have on Christmas Day, is it? But there is a suggestion that it might be a problem. And anyway, this hexagram biting through does move, and it moves to the hexagram before completion. I've actually forgotten to put the number there. It is it's actually hexagram 64. Hexagram 64 before completion. So it seems that whatever the problems we have talked about in terms of 21, we will find a way to start to resolve them. And as the day progresses, we can make our influence felt, and people will start to respect us more. But it is before completion. You know, sorting the problem out, it still requires some delicacy. And there's a danger that we might sort of spoil it at the last moment. Remembering the astrology that we've got Moon opposition the Mercury-Mars conjunction, you know, one word could spoil everything. So we might be starting to sort out the situation, getting really close, and then we just spoil it by saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. So this underlines the point, you know, we have to be very careful what we say. Okay, so that's the I Ching, which I think to an extent complements the astrology. It's not an easy situation we're in. I think for most of us, it's not going to be the best Christmas. And I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I think there are going to be better Christmases, not a Christmas to write home about in many cases. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the astrology, and I want to talk about the full moon on Wednesday. So let's move ahead. Just it's kind of a preview of the full moon. There it is. There's the full moon. This full moon, on the surface, it kind of looks okay, doesn't it? Because you know, there's the full moon, and you can see that Jupiter is trine trine the sun and sextile the moon, and you know Jupiter's becoming quite powerful here because Jupiter is about to go stationary direct. It's been going backwards for a long time, and Jupiter is Jupiter is a planet of good fortune. Jupiter can help us engineer the truth, because you know the full moon is a time. It's a time when we can see the reality of the situation. It's clear to us. And so over the next 2 weeks, we have to deal with the reality of the situation. But Jupiter suggests that this is actually an opportunity. Because once we understand the truth of the situation, Jupiter allows us to make changes. to make changes that kind of make things better for ourselves and perhaps the world at large. Maybe in terms of society, people understand the truth, they can see the way things are going, and this gives us an opportunity to create constructive change. And so that is, in a sense, a fortunate spin on the full moon. I mean, lots of people will be talking about this full moon, and I would guess that a lot of people will be trying to really highlight that Jupiter and say how good it is. Unfortunately, there are other things going on with this full moon. Firstly, Uranus. On the surface, you don't see Uranus because it's making a semi-square sesquiquadrate. The semi-square sesquiquadrates are often quite difficult to see when you're looking at this kind of chart. But in fact, Uranus is semi-square the moon, and Uranus is sesquiquadrate the sun. It's not an exact aspect, but it's certainly there. And Uranus is the planet of surprises, the planet of earthquakes. It's a planet of revolution. And so what we could say is, once people see the truth, they're going to be mad. They're going to be really rebellious. And so perhaps over the next 2 weeks, the truth is coming out all the time, and it's not necessarily just sort of individual, an individual thing. I think it's societal. I was looking at one of the comments that on one of my videos recently, and someone made the point that this is a time when more and more people are learning the truth, and it's devastating. And I think the suggestion is that it's really changing society. But that commenter, I think, was associating this truth thing with the fact that the United States was having its Pluto return, and there may be an element, there may be something in that. But this is perhaps showing the same thing in a different way. Full moon is about seeing the truth. Uranus is about dramatically seeing the truth. I'm being shocked when we actually see the truth about what's going on in society, what certain individuals are doing. The truth. The truth is sometimes can be very difficult to handle, and that's not the only thing going on. Now, I've shown you here a midpoint tree. So the sun and the moon and the Aries point. So if you look at let me look at the midpoints here. If the sun and the moon are at 4 degrees cardinal signs, 4 degrees Cancer Capricorn, 4 degrees 58 Cancer Capricorn, I think you'd agree on that. But if we reflect, so approximately, we'll call it 5 degrees Capricorn, just round it up. So there's 5 degrees. Okay, 5 degrees Cancer Capricorn. So there's 5 degrees. Now, if we reflect that point in the Aries point, or reflect it in 0 degrees Cancer, we reflect that in the solstice point, we get to 25 Gemini. So 25 Gemini is a reflection of 5 degrees Cancer in the solstice point. You agree on that? And then we see that 25 degrees Gemini is square Neptune, and it is opposition Mercury and Mars. So the Aries point has it reflects, so this new moon gets reflected through the Aries point onto this Neptune, Mars, Mercury configuration. So there's Neptune with Mercury and Mars configuring it. So, and we can see that in the sense of midpoint. So this is why I've shown this midpoint tree up here. So you've got the Aries point. I'm showing this here, and we can see that Aries is on the Sun-Mercury midpoint. It's on the Sun-Venus, Sun-Mars midpoint. It's on the Sun-Neptune midpoint. It's on the Moon-Mercury midpoint. It's on the Moon-Mars midpoint, and it's on the Moon-Neptune midpoint. So we can look at that also on a 90-degree dial. So let me just look at the 90-degree dial. I think I set that. No, not that one. There it is. There's a 90-degree dial. There, I'm putting the Aries point right in the middle. So there's the Aries point. So that would be 0 degrees Aries, or anything aspecting the Aries point by square, opposition, semi-square, so by square or opposition. There's the new moon. There's the full moon, but they are put together. But the Aries, the way when you have a 90-degree dial, it treats conjunctions, squares, and oppositions all as conjunction. So if two planets are in opposition, they're a conjunction. If two planets are in square, they're a conjunction. So there's the Aries, there's the Sun and Moon, which on the 90-degree dial comes as a conjunction. There is Mercury, Neptune, and Mars. You see a Mercury-Mars conjunction, and it's square Neptune, so that's all treated as a conjunction, and you can see the symmetry across the Aries point. So now we're starting to see what this new full moon is all about. This full moon is actually, when you look at it like this, is actually very difficult. Mercury, Mars, Neptune it's kind of deluded. It's about people getting the wrong end of the stick, jumping to the wrong conclusions. And the full moon is bringing it all out. And so my concern is that, over the next couple of weeks, people aren't going to have they're not going to have a clue what they're doing. People could be making dramatic decisions. And I'm thinking particularly of people in government. As individuals, we have much greater choice. As I always say, the lower down in the pecking order, us people, like me, I'm irrelevant. What happens to me? Fate couldn't care what happens to me. But if you're a Biden or a Putin, you have no free will. And so it's those kinds of people that might be really affected by this full moon. We, as just private individuals, we can make sure that we're careful, that we don't jump to conclusions, we don't make faulty decisions or whatever. But people like Biden, Putin, Zelensky or whatever, no. They are, in a way, instruments of fate. And so the problem with this full moon, I think, is there's this great danger that people could make very important decisions which are based on false information. And so I think we really need to watch out for that. Okay, so that's the full moon. What I want to do now is I want to look at the horoscope of this supposed explosion near Odessa, and the idea being that maybe it was partisans, ordinary people in Odessa, or working for the railways and whatever, maybe, who are actually sympathetic to the Russians to the point that they are blowing up trains. I mean, that's what the suggestion is. We've always, the sort of pro-Ukrainian sources, told us, what we're going to do is they're going to rise up, Ukrainians who are under Russian domination are going to bravely do guerrilla warfare and whatever. But what about the other possibility that this is guerrilla warfare? Ordinary people around the Odessa are attacking Ukrainian and NATO assets. Now, I'm not saying that's true or not. I'm just want to look at the horoscope for this attack. Here we go. This is what I did. Now, I've said that it's Odessa. I've actually did change the coordinates so that it's this settlement, the city. I don't know how big I think it's probably quite small, but it's actually outside Odessa. So I have changed the coordinates. So what do you reckon? Do you think that's possibly the horoscope of an explosion on a train? Well, it is true that Mars is on the IC, pretty close to the IC. Now, we don't know for sure, by the way, that this really happened at 11 o'clock, even if it did happen. But let's assume it happened at 11 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. If that was the case, Mars would be on the IC, and I suppose that sort of fits an explosion on a railway. I mean, the foundations of something are just attacked, destroyed, maybe. So that fits. And I suppose you might say there's Neptune on the descendant. So Neptune would be sort of undercover activity, people working behind the scenes. So you've got a Mars-Neptune square on the angles. So I think that might fit. So that is a possibility. But that's not the only thing going on. We've got Mars and Jupiter now. This weekend, this weekend. Now, this would have been on sort of Friday night, Ukraine time. So this weekend we've got Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter. So you see there's Mars at 2034 Sagittarius. There's Jupiter at 542 Taurus. They are 135 degrees apart. It's 3/8 of the slice in a cake. So Mars and Jupiter are 135 degrees apart. And so Mars is not just on the IC, it's also sesquiquadrate Jupiter. So Mars and Jupiter together is quite a violent combination. You could say Jupiter is about the successful operation. Mars is about the nature of the operation. There's an explosion. And in terms of the ascendant, Mars is not just conjunct the IC, Mars is square the ascendant, and Jupiter is sesquiquadrate the ascendant. So given Mars's proximity to the fact that it's conjunct the IC and it's square the ascendant, and the fact that Jupiter is also sesquiquadrate the ascendant. From an astrological point of view, I think it is quite plausible that at 11 p.m. on the 22nd, close to Odessa, there was an explosion. Now, the Neptune on the 7th, that does indicate something underhand about it. You could see that as perhaps suggesting partisan activity. But there are a number of ways that explosion could have happened. I mean, of course, from a Russian perspective, they would like to say that it was partisans, ordinary people doing this, but maybe it was something else. Maybe someone fired a missile. I don't know. But I think that this story about the attack and the fact that a train got exploded, got destroyed, I think from an astrological perspective, it is plausible. But I'm not saying for sure it happened. I was just showing you how one might use astrology to try to check the validity of a story in a conflict where it's really very difficult to find out what the real truth is. Okay, so that is that's it for Christmas Day, December the 25th. I really hope you have a great Christmas. Maybe if you take on my warnings, that can improve things. So there's a lot you have to watch out for. But I think if you take heed of the warnings, if you take heed of what the I Ching is saying, then maybe you'll find a way of arranging Christmas to make sure that it really is a happy Christmas. So yeah, so thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this video, then feel free to like it. If you're not subscribed and you enjoyed the video, then yeah, I'd be very grateful if you were to subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link in the description. Again, thank you very much for listening, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.